Did you know that ancient Egyptians made wigs using grass and dead people hair? Today, the process has evolved into a combination of human skill and machine accuracy, creating wigs so perfect you won't believe how they're made. Behind the glue and the scissors lies an industry that refuses to fade away. Want to see the secrets behind every strand? Then stick around. You'll never look at wigs the same way again. Okay, so this is how wigs are made today in Seoul, South Korea. If you walk through the streets, you'll see plenty of shops like this one here, which is known as the Seoul Wig Doctor. These businesses often have large branding and information printed on their shop fronts, such as phone numbers, licenses, as well as before and after marketing photos. They even have electrical signs to draw the attention of wide-eyed travelers at night. As the guest enters, he is warmly greeted by a worker, who is clearly delighted at the thought of the sizable profits he'll soon be collecting from the man's wallet. This particular wig shop is run by a nationally recognized master. The small-scale factory behind it employs a few workers, but it doesn't require a massive number of staff to function like clockwork. The client is then guided to his seat in an atmosphere that feels similar to a barbershop. However, what's about to go down is far beyond anything you'd ever find at your local salon, that's for sure. The worker proceeds to comb the client's hair and discuss which areas of the head need to be measured for the wig. The wig will be custom designed for this client, focusing mainly on the top part of the head, as the client has enough natural hair on the sides and back to keep a family of squirrels warm for the winter. The wig maker, dressed in his company shirt and matching underwear, begins by cutting a roll of plastic wrap. He places it over the client's head, twists the ends, and secures it under the client's chin. This helps the plastic form tightly around the shape of the client's head, capturing every curve, crevice, nook, and cranny. Next, the wig maker uses sticky tape to secure the plastic wrap further, layering multiple strips over it. Then, using a black marker, he maps out the hairline, creates a center line, and marks the areas where the wig will be placed. To preserve these markings, he adds more sticky tape over them, which both prevents them from smudging during the next steps, as well as creates a more structured and durable mold for further processing. Once done, the plastic mold is carefully removed from the client's head and trimmed to eliminate any excess material. Afterward, the wig maker places the trimmed plastic mold on a nearby table and trims off a small piece of the client's hair. This hair sample is taped to the plastic mold. It's used to match the color, texture, and thickness of the wig later. And who knows, he might even give it a quick taste test when no one's watching. Meanwhile, another worker prepares the base structure. He uses a metallic head mold to provide a sturdy base, then places a rubber head mold over it that mimics the client's head shape. To secure the rubber mold, he fastens it with over 40 metal clips. Once secure, he places the client's precise plastic mold over the generic rubber mold and outlines it with a white marker. Using a type of thin white craft tape, he follows the outline to mark out sections for the wig. Next, he applies a type of interfacing fabric to the rubber mold, ironing it into place. Over this layer, he adds a lightweight mesh netting and reattaches the clips so everything is firmly secured. The thin white craft tape is used again to create intricate patterns and lines, making it easier to define sections that need to be cut or adjusted. Satisfying. For added accuracy, he uses a thicker tape to bolden the outlines and prepare for the next steps. He then opens a bucket of silicone and carefully applies it using a squeegee between the taped lines for a smooth application. After removing all unnecessary tape, only the silicone-covered areas remain, creating the sturdiest of sturdy bases for the wig. Trust me, I can already tell that this is going to turn out good. Next, the piece is placed into a drying machine, a specialized wig-drying oven with racks inside, and closes the door after finishing. The drying machine sets the silicone and adhesive layers, completing this phase of the process. After the mold is finished, it is carefully taken out of the wig drying oven. This machine is designed to handle multiple molds at the same time, speeding up the company's workflow by a factor of 20. Do you see that mesh material that's still attached to the top part of the mold? Yeah, this part of the mesh is no longer needed, so it is trimmed away with care and discarded. The worker uses pliers to remove the staples that were holding the mesh in place. Then, the rubber mold, which is combined with plastic, is turned upside down and placed back onto the head mold. The worker carefully cuts through the center of the silicone mold, removing a small section. This leaves a portion of the mesh exposed, which will be important later. Next, the mold is given to another attractive and skilled worker in the sewing area. This employee uses a sewing machine to give the mold the strength of 10 men. A piece of white tape that was applied earlier in the process serves as a guide. Why? Well, it makes it easier to sew straight lines because it creates clear markings that are durable and easy to follow. After finishing the stitching, the extra thread is trimmed away neatly so the mold is clean and tidy. The mold is then passed to another station where a clear plastic piece, shaped to fit the mold perfectly, is inserted into its base. This adds strength to the mold so it can handle the next stages of its journey. In the next phase, the workers prepare the hair that will mimic the client's natural hair 1-to-1. A worker picks up a bunch of loose hair from its storage area. They use a hackle, which is the tool that you can see on screen that has rows of sharp metal spikes. All it does is detangle, straighten, and blend the strands together so they look more natural when used in the wig. Once the hair is ready, it is weighed on a scale, as using the required weight of hair will allow the wig to match the client's natural hair density as close as possible. The worker ties the correctly measured hair in the middle with a rubber band, trims the top to make it even, and places it inside the client's head mold, putting it aside for later. With the hair prepared, the mold is moved to another part of the factory. Here, an employee secures the head mold in place using metallic pins, similar to those you might find in your grandmother's sewing kit. The worker begins crocheting individual strands of hair into the mesh part of the mold. They use something called a crochet hook, which is a tool often used for making instant dreadlocks. This crocheting is done entirely by hand, requiring the worker to be as patient as someone untangling a pair of Apple earbuds. The worker checks their progress often, combing through the hair to spot any bald areas or uneven spots. If any gaps are found, more hair strands are added until the wig looks full and natural. Once this is done, the worker of course has to give the hairpiece an extra comb for good measure. If this is not done, the hairpiece will give the wearer 10 years of bad luck. Just kidding. Anyway, after this, the mold is pinned onto a creepy mannequin head. This makes it easier for the employee to style and finish the wig. The worker brushes the hair and sections it using pegs. They then use special scissors to trim the hair. Since the client already has enough hair on the sides and back of their head, the wig focuses only on the top part. I wonder how it'll turn out. The next step is washing the wig. The worker wears beautiful gloves to protect their hands and uses a spray bottle to spray the wig with a shampoo solution. They brush the wig while it's still sopping wet, removing any tangles or dirt. Then, the wig is rinsed under running water to wash away the shampoo and any leftover residue. To remove extra water droplets, the wig is left to chill on the sink tap for a few minutes, followed up by a few slaps on the inside of the sink. After that, it is wrapped in a towel and ferociously squeezed to eliminate any stubborn moisture that dared to stick around. Once the wig is unwrapped, it is straightened using a hairdryer and a brush. The worker's skill is clear as they handle the wig. The final touches involve trimming the ends of the hair strands. The worker uses an electric foil shaver, which is a tool often used for very close cuts or detailed finishing. It looks like the type of machine you might have seen which removes lint from clothing. The worker also uses a comb while trimming so they don't cut off too much hair. Once this is complete, the wig is combed again to check its evenness. Even though the wig currently looks pretty terrible, it has been carefully tailored to match the client's head and hair. Fingers crossed it looks better on his head than what it looks like now. The worker removes the wig from the terrifying mannequin head and inspects it under different lights. Yeah, this'll do, he thinks in his mind as the camera zooms into his face. Finally, the wig is placed onto the client's head mold, which is mounted on a stick like a kebab. After he slaps the wig back onto the client's head, the client is handed a mirror to check out how the wig looks from different angles, including the back. Absolutely overjoyed with the results, clients often become emotional, struggling to fully express their gratitude to the company for single-handedly adding 40 years to their lives. The process ends with mutual bows of respect. As he walks out of the shop and down the street, the client, looking like $1 million, feels deeply satisfied and confident with his new look. Now, starting at number 5 and counting down to number 1, here are the top 5 most interesting and lesser-known fun facts about wigs. Are you ready? Let's comb through it. Number 5. Wigs were once mandatory by law. Seriously. Imagine a world where your bald spot could get you fined. Welcome to 17th century France. Louis XIV was balding, and instead of rocking the bare dome or buying a hat, he decided the entire kingdom needed to start wearing wigs. That's right, if the king's crown wasn't going to sparkle, then neither was your scalp. By royal decree, wigs became a legal requirement for anyone who wanted to maintain their status. Not rocking a wig in public, you might as well admit you were broke. And this wasn't only a French thing. England caught wig fever too, with judges, lawyers, and anyone who considered themselves important powdering up their oversized headpieces. I guess you could say wigs were the original Instagram filter. Cover up your flaws, pretend you're rich, and pray no one calls you out. Number 4. Pirates wore wigs too, for a weird reason. Arg, matey, fetch me wig? Yes, even these scurvy-ridden sea thieves decided wigs were essential, but not because pirates suddenly envied high society fashion. These wigs served one purpose: to hide the absolute horror show happening on their scalps. Lice, boils, and a general lack of bathing made wigs a portable, replaceable scalp for pirates who didn't believe in soap. Imagine Blackbeard boarding your ship, screaming for treasure, while his wig is slipping sideways. Terrifying, yet oddly hilarious. Plus, wigs doubled as a sneaky disguise. Ditch the hairpiece, and suddenly you're just another scruffy sailor. Number 3. Wigs were once a cure for syphilis. Got syphilis in the 16th century? First off, congrats on catching the most fashionable disease of the time. Second, slap on a wig. Back then, wigs were praised as a solution for syphilis, the disease that came with some truly grotesque symptoms that ate away at your face, hair, and dignity. Patients with telltale bald patches and sores slapped on a wig, thinking it was the ultimate cover-up. And honestly, it kind of was. These wigs were heavily powdered, often with lavender or orange to mask the smell of rotting flesh. Doctors even recommended wigs as part of the treatment. Nothing screams medical breakthrough like hiding your symptoms under a sweaty, lice-ridden hairpiece. If you thought modern beauty routines were extreme, the syphilis wig combo makes Botox look like child's play. Number 2. Ancient Egyptians invented wigs. To beat the heat? When you think of ancient Egypt, wigs probably aren't the first thing that comes to mind. But trust me, they were as common as sandals in the desert. Egyptians shaved their heads to avoid the brutal heat, then topped them with wigs made from human hair, wool, or even grass. These weren't your average Party City accessories. They were intricately braided and often decorated with gold, beads, and ribbons. This ancient wig, discovered in the Egyptian city of Thebes, now known as Luxor, was so well made with human hair and linen that I'm starting to think that they were, in fact, gods. Rich Egyptians wore elaborate wigs adorned with braids and gold accents, while the poor had to settle for something that either A, resembled a shrub on their head, or B, looked like it came from a craft store's clearance bin. Oh, and wigs also kept bugs off their heads, which might be the most practical thing about them. Funny how things work out sometimes. Number 1. Wigs were once so big you needed an emergency stick. You know how we complain about high-maintenance hair today? Try managing a wig so massive it needed a stick to keep it upright. In 18th century Europe, the rich and powerful wore wigs the size of small children. People would decorate these towering monstrosities with miniatures of ships, birds, or even entire battle scenes. Imagine walking into a party with a diorama on your head. Anyhow, women carried around these wig sticks like medieval lances, propping up their gravity-defying hairstyles whenever their necks screamed for mercy. And it didn't stop there. These wigs were so beefy that servants sometimes had to lie their mistress down in carriages because sitting upright wasn't an option. Who needs sitting anyway? Bonus! Wigs were once so valuable, people wrote them into wills. Since you've stayed until now, here's a bonus fact. Back when wigs cost more than your rent, they weren't just disposable accessories. Oh no, people often bequeathed their wigs in their wills, and families would pass down these prized hair pieces like fine china. Imagine inheriting your granddad's favorite wig, complete with decades of sweat, dust, and maybe a few leftover lice. Truly, nothing says I love you like inheriting someone's second scalp. By the way, guys, hi, hello, I'm Elliot. I'm the voice actor for this channel. We at Factora are proud of promoting human voices over AI, so if you'd like to check out more of my work, here's my website. Now, excuse me while I head off to carefully analyze my own hairline in the mirror, but before I go, let me congratulate you. You now know exactly how wigs are made in the factory. And since you're already here, check out our previous video. It might just shock you.